Welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Can I just say as a side note, I'm a freaking massive fan, mate. Honest to God.
Oh, thanks very much.
I've watched it between us about 3 or 4 times over again, so it's sick, mate.
Oh well, no, thank you very much for that, mate. Look, we'll jump straight in because we can chat about stuff, and then we'll do like a fake hello because obviously like we'll edit it so the start of the podcast happens in a second, and at the end we'll say goodbye, but don't go anywhere because what we'll do is we'll say goodbye for the thing. And then once we've stopped recording, we can just have a brief chat and say thank you again for coming on and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, of course.
Brilliant.
Look at you,
so
mate. You know, you're going to get rid of that first bit where he's saying he's a fan of yours, mate. As if you ain't going to leave that in all day long.
I'll get you to repeat that later on. I'll get you to repeat that later on. Yeah. But no, you'll be surprised at how many people it's like, we're like, all right, thanks. Thanks very much, mate. See you next time. Thinking that's just for the record. And then they go and we're like, oh no, because we want to say like, proper thank you because you've given up your time for us, you know. So, but anyway, we'll crack on.
Nice one, sounds good, mate.
Hello and welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast, and today we have a very special guest with us. It's Modestas Bukauskas. How you doing, mate? And do you know what? First thing I should say is, have I pronounced your name correctly? How many people get your name pronounced wrong?
I'm glad you stepped up and done that.
You got
mate.
it spot on. Yeah, you got it absolutely spot on. I'm pretty sure as soon as you pronounced my name, you saw the smile on my face. I'm like, bloody hell, pronunciation's on point. So, yeah, good, mate. Thank you so much for having me on, by the way. I really appreciate it. Like I say, I'm a massive fan of yours. So, it's great to be on here.
Oh, thanks very much, mate. Well, that $5 is in the post for you there. That's
Sponsorship deals are reckless right now. Yeah.
But before we crack on, would you mind just turning your camera? That's it. That's the one. Just we want to see more of your face. That's what we want to see.
Of course, mate.
Modestas, we always start really by taking guests back a little bit, and we want to know a little bit about where you grew up. And how you sort of came to find yourself in a gym and how you found combat sports.
Yeah, so basically, I was actually born in Lithuania, so that's why I've got the extremely long name that not everyone, apart from Blake Harrison, can pronounce. So,
yes,
you know, my family are all from Lithuania. So yeah, I literally, as soon as I turned 3 years old, my family, we moved to the UK. And yeah, man, it's like pretty much as soon as I was able to like walk and like do a little bit more things, my dad had me like, you know, on the pads and everything. Like pretty much when I got to like 5 years old, I just remember, he would be showing me techniques and like kicks and stuff like that. And then before I knew it, it got very serious very quickly. It's like one week we're just having fun with it. You're like, trying to like, you know, kind of show me something cool. And then next minute it's like, okay, Modestas, we train hard now. I'm like, oh God, here we go. I wonder where this is going. So, and then, yeah, I pretty much never looked back. I mean, I had a little break from, so I started doing Sambo with my dad, kickboxing. The first thing I ever competed in.
Was that your dad's background?
Yeah, so my dad, like, he started in karate and Sambo, and then he kind of just blended it all together. And he actually fought in no holds barred, which was basically what MMA is known now. It's called no holds barred, and it's like basically what it is today, except with a lot less rules. And it was like the very sort of primitive version. I mean, realistically, this was what it was like before the UFC came about. Like I say, before there's any like real rule sets and everything. So yeah, he was a savage. So if you told me I need to clean my room, mate, you best believe
it. Spotless.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Can't leave even one dust particle on the drawers. So yeah, he was obviously a very, very tough guy, and you know, and I started out in that, and I mean, you know, I started competing in kickboxing. I became a 4-time British kickboxing champion, and then I competed in judo. I did judo. So, like I say, I was just always around martial arts, but I had a bit of like a kind of, I would say, an offsetting of the momentum with martial arts, because, you know, obviously you're a kid, and I was training very hard from such a young age. You know, not to say that I probably got tired of it, but my parents let me sort of branch out and do some different things. And then I I tried tennis first off, and then I started out okay, and then next thing you know, I just started hitting the ball too hard and getting frustrated. So tennis wasn't for me. Then we started playing basketball, and basketball was actually a sport where I sort of excelled a little bit more. I actually went to America for 2 years. So from the age of 16 to 18, I went to America. I played in the high school team, obviously wanting to get a basketball scholarship. I ended up dabbling in American football as well. And I actually ended up being better in American football, but I had to stop halfway through because it overlapped with basketball. And, so realistically, I stopped training martial arts like very properly. I won my last British kickboxing title when I was 14, but I'd already stopped training it like fully, like my main thing, when I was 12. So you could say I had about like a 6-year break. And then when it got to 18 and there was no scholarships on the table, and kind of, what kind of decision do you want? Do you want to go to college in America, or do you want to? Basically, my dad says you can either do that, you can come home, you can start training in MMA, and this is essentially your last chance of making it as a professional athlete. So I'm like, well, I mean, this has been my dream since I was a little kid. So that's it, and props since then I've never looked back.
So would you it seems like you were almost like groomed for MMA from a really young age by your dad, but it's interesting that you had that little break there and stuff, because I can imagine young kids having that kind of like a bit of a pressure put on them, or like a pathway set for them that they haven't necessarily chosen themselves. It's kind of been laid out for them. Would you reckon that break was really important for you to go and find your own way back to MMA, rather than it just being MMA and martial arts the whole time and thinking, oh, did I really choose this type thing?
Yeah, I think it was good to let me sort of experiment and like almost like kind of just let my creativity just go where it wanted to go.
Yeah.
I feel like it just gave me an extra bit of hunger as well. I had a lot of failures, with the other sports, that it also almost everything, as you said, it just prepared me for what was to come within my actual MMA career. And when I came back, in some ways, I wish I would have continued to do it and did it like properly, because then I probably would have been a little bit further ahead skill set wise. But at the same time, I gained in so many different ways. Like, for example, in America, their strength and conditioning program is like elite level. Like, I'm surprised that they haven't got that in the UK. In our school system, realistically, it's we just do a bit of PE, play a bit, and then the people who excel in sport, they usually go to a club, like, and the main sports are like football, and stuff like that, and in cricket, they go to like academies and stuff like that. So in America, to have that in high school, I'm talking like we had NFL coaches come and like NBA type coaches that were coming in doing our strength and conditioning. So I gained explosiveness, I gained strength, I gained and just like the mental toughness, because I used to get shouted at a lot. I still do, but oh my god, my basketball coach was very tough on me, and but I feel like that has shaped me to become who I am today, because if it wasn't for those lessons, I definitely wouldn't have survived, with my career going forward.
That's something that I wanted to sort of dig a little deeper on, really. And when you said about sort of going out to America at a young age, and then obviously coming to the UK from Lithuania and such, like all of these things and all of these sports, and constantly being in new environments, which is for most people quite intimidating as a young person. Was you a confident kid?
No, mate. I was like the unpopular kid. I was like the skinny guy. The girls didn't like me. The guys weren't cool with me. It was just like
I can really relate to that, actually. I can really, especially the skinny part and the girls not liking you. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, this is it. I'm glad that I have someone to sort of confide in with the same mate, situation.
Yeah. We'll set up a therapy group. I'll give you my number. We'll set up a group, me and you. We can just talk through all our troubles.
Yeah, exactly. AA meetings from the traumas that we had from school.
Hello, I'm Blake, and yes, I'm a skinny man, and the girls don't like me. Yeah, that's how we start the meeting. Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. So it was. It was a tough time always in school, because, like I say, I was never really the guy that was liked, and it was always me trying to like search for validation. I was always trying to search to be popular, search to be known, searching for the bloody girls to like me, for even to be part of like good friendship groups. And it was weird, because the only place where I found security and safety was actually within the realm of sport or martial arts.
Yeah.
Like martial arts, I felt like I was a king because, you know, I was competing and doing well, but no one else seemed to give a crap about it, you know? So it's mad because, yeah, it's like, it's almost like you want to show off your, and I was always like, you know, kind of like the nice kid, you know, I was never, my character got built through, like I say, the experiences that I had. And like you said, being put in different environments all the time. I mean, I must have switched school about 4 or 5 different times. I literally had to be part of different environments constantly, you know, going from a state school to a private school, then back to a state school, then going to another private school. It's like, and then, you know, going to America to like a Catholic private school. It's like, it was just literally all different types, but it helped as well. Like even in the workplace, like I started out, you know, working as a personal trainer, and, you know, even just to be able to relate to different types of people, those experiences have helped with that, even because it's like, then you can adapt very quick. You can adapt on the fly. So, you know, I definitely built my confidence over time, but it was a very long road for me. I feel like, in a way, a lot of the things that happened in my life have happened to the later, like from what it feels like to me right now, is like the later part of my life where it seemed like a lot of kids, like, I don't know, maybe they peaked a bit too early, but it seems like I'm sort of peaking at the right time. But obviously, when you're going through it, you're thinking, why the hell is these good things or these experiences not happening to me now? You know, when like you see some kid getting off with the hottest chick, and it's just like, why isn't that not happening to me? Do you know what I mean? So it's like you kind of you learn a lot of things, and yeah, I think you just learn to give less of a fuck. You know, like as time goes on, as things happen, you realize that, you know, no one really cares, and neither should you. You should just keep going and just be who you are. People I found in life just generally would relate to me or like me more when I was just being myself, and that's all you can do. That's all you can do in life, is just be yourself. Don't care about trying to impress no one. And look, you're going to make friends, you're going to make enemies, but at the end of the day, this is life. So I've definitely come to terms with that, and it's made me become a much happier, you know, healthier person, I guess, in general.
Right. Okay. You've had some really important from at least looking from the outside in, it looks like you've had some really kind of important fights in your career so far. And the ones that stand out to me looking at your career would be the 2 times you won the Cage Warriors belt. Obviously the first time against, is it Martin Hamlin, and then more recently against Chuck, who was it? Chuck Campbell, that was it. And then you've had your UFC debut, but then also you've had your, I don't know if you would call it almost like a second debut, because you were released and then you come back recently where you fought and beat Tyson Pedro on, I think it was about a week's notice or something like that. So with those 4 fights in mind, the 2 times you won the Cage Warriors world title, and let's call them your 2 UFC debuts. Obviously, you can only have 1 debut, but let's call the Tyson Pedro fight almost like a second debut, if you will. Of those 4 fights, which one were you most nervous about, and which one were you least nervous about, and why?
Well, weirdly enough, the one that I was least nervous about was my most recent fight, which was with Tyson Pedro.
Yeah.
Like you would expect, with all the odds stacked against me, that would be my sort of the one where you'd feel the most nervous. But yeah, I probably felt the most nervous for the Hamlet fight, and the least nervous for so in actual chronological order. And
is that to do with maturity as a fighter?
Yeah.
Or is that something else?
I think that's a testament to it's a testament to me maturing as a fighter, but not necessarily even just as a fighter, but maturing mentally as a person in general. What the main 2 key differences is that, although there's 2 similarities, which is where I went into the fight ready to go and get it, where everyone thought I was never going to win. I was, you know, I've had many times I've been the underdog. Many times. Sorry, let me just try and prop this phone up, because I'm literally holding it with my arm here, and like my arm's getting a bit tired. I know I'm an athlete and everything, but bloody hell, my shoulders.
Conditioning, mate. Come on.
Make sure you swap to the other one, or you're just gonna have one big shoulder and the other's gonna...
There we go. Yeah, exactly. Next thing I'll just walk around like this. All right, you've got to stay away from this right hand. Left arm's okay.
Have you seen that episode of Family Guy where Quagmire discovers that there's porn on the internet? And have you seen that?
I haven't, but I definitely need to check out. Now that you've told me, I need to get on that, mate.
You see him from side profile after he's like, they're like, Quagmire, where have you been for the last week? And it's only because he's just realized that there's porn on the internet, and he has to point at something, and he's all skinny from the side, and then he lifts up his right arm, and it's incredibly veiny and muscular because he's clearly been working out his arm for the last week.
So yeah, if I'm going around with a massive shoulder, at least we can say, oh yeah, just from holding on my phone, not from anything else, guys.
Yeah,
let's not get any bad ideas here.
So is there a little bit of a kind of comfort in a weird way of being the underdog and also taking that fight on sort of short notice? Does it like alleviate that? Well, look, I'm just going to go and give this everything I've got. You know, this is an opportunity that has been thrown upon me. Let's just do it. Let's go for it. Like what's the kind of sort of headspace when when you know you're an underdog and you are taking a fight of that sort of notice?
Well, I've been an underdog for quite a lot of my career. I've gone through a lot of like the adversities have just made me better. That's the only way that you can really handle these situations is just to become better from it. Otherwise, you are going to crumble and you're just never going to come back. So, like I said, the first Hamlet fight, there was a sense of fierceness that I had because I knew. I think the odds. I think it closed. Again, it opened as like an 8-1 underdog, and then it closed as a 3-1. So it's like already as time went on, and again, loads of people started making bets on me. I made some of my friends some money. So like I say, this is when I say we're all coming up. I mean, we're making money together. You know what I mean? But it's like when you have that kind of where everyone's counting you, and I've had that a lot in my life. I think again, past experiences, like all the time, like never been seen as like that kid that had that much recognition. No one really cared about me. Okay, well, this is my chance to make it happen. It was already known before the Hamlet fight that the winner was probably going to go to the UFC, and already they were looking at. It's just mad. Like in my head, it almost made me angry. This is why the chip on the shoulder is so good for fighting, because you need it. It gives you that extra hunger, and that was what I had going into that fight because everyone had already decided that he's won. It's like, hold on a second, yeah, he's got to fight me. Do you know who I am? Like, do you know what I mean? It's almost like people just disrespect you without even realize your capabilities. So that was my chance to show myself, and the reason why I really loved Cage Warriors for that was because they gave me the shot. They gave me the opportunity. We asked them, actually, like, I remember I just beat Dan Kanecki for the Fight Star belt. And then afterwards, we were like, listen, we need to step up in competition. Like, give us someone really good. Then I fought Marcin Wojciech, which was like the #1 guy from Poland or #1 guy from Eastern Europe. I beat him by spinning back kick with losing the fight pretty much until that point. And then they're like, okay, maybe this guy's got something. We're going to give him the title shot. If he comes through, we'll start, obviously it's just a fight game. You win, you get rewarded. You lose, no one cares about you. It's just how it is, And that was my chance to shine. And I knew I had to weather a bit of a storm, and, we got it done. I have to admit, when I won that fight, along with obviously my UFC debut 2.0, it was one of the most like really rewarding feelings after the fight. It genuinely felt like I was in a dream because I'd visualized it. I'd written it on boards. I had, John Jones signing a piece of paper with me with the belt and stuff. It's like, which I still have that up here somewhere in my room. But yeah, it was just mad. Like, because like I said, everything then just all happened. Like, I'm like, wow, now people are starting to know about me. Now people are starting to care. Now I've actually made something of myself. Now people are starting to think like, who the hell is this Modestas guy? And then it obviously then built up over time. And then, and the reason why I say that was my most nervous is just because, like I say, I knew there was a lot on the line, but I just would basically shut out those feelings of nerves with, I'm going to win. Like, I'm not going to lose this fight. I'm going to win. Losing wasn't even in my thought process. I'm going to win. Very similar to the Tyson Pedro fight. However, with the Tyson Pedro fight, I just came in with a bit more of a dark side. When shit really happens to you, when, things just the tables seem to be turned on you, your dreams come true and then they get crashed. They get crashed in your face. It changes you. It changes you mentally, and you also realize that a lot of people aren't your friends. You realize that people are quick to be with you when, you know, when things are going good, but then as soon as when, you know, everything starts going bad, they just want to leave you straight away. And I noticed that a lot. And, you know, I keep that in mind. I will always be the humble guy. I'll always be polite. You know, I've been brought up very well by my parents, so obviously I'll always be that person. But however, it's like I use this analogy all the time, but it's really something that resonates very well with me. Is that you got blue lightsaber, red lightsaber. Yeah, blue lightsaber is almost like too much in the side of, you know, being polite, kind, sweet, and then you got the red lightsaber, arrogant, mean, angry. You know, you've got to have that fine balance. So you've got to be somewhere in the middle. You know, you've got to meet in the middle somewhere where you've got to have that. But if you do not have the blue lightsaber, you do not have the other side, you're going to get crushed. You know, so this is something that I've taken.
You need to be purple lightsaber. You
Exactly.
need to be Mace Windu. You need to be Samuel L. Jackson. We all need to be more Samuel L. Jackson. That's what it is. Yeah.
If that's anything to be learned in life, be more like Samuel L. Jackson.
That's it. We all should just live our lives like that.
You touched on the fight game, Modestas. When you're talking about the fight game, you're saying there's obviously when you're winning, everyone wants to be your friend, and when you're losing, no one wants to know you. I saw something, and I was really sort of surprised and a bit disappointed to read that, you know, things can work that way. That when the injury sort of signaled your release from the UFC, you found out on Twitter. Is that true?
So, well, I think it was already known. I don't know exactly how it all sort of like I say, maybe my manager already knew, he just didn't want to tell me, or he was going to call me. And, you know, I don't know what the situation was. Like I say, my manager's always been very supportive and amazing with me. So, but yeah, obviously on media, everything gets found out and said very quickly. You know, if there's ever an inkling about anything, or they see, like, literally, because obviously on that app, I think it's done robotically. Like, as soon as someone gets taken off the roster, bang, it's done straight away. So yeah, I remember I was sitting in my bed and I was trying to be like optimistic, because I'm like, look, I had a good fight against Oleksiejczuk, even though I lost. And then obviously with the Khalil fight,
that was a very close fight as well.
Yeah,
that was like, I think that could easily have been scored for you. It was a very, very close fight. I felt that one. I don't feel like that was like, oh, because you went on a 3-fight losing streak, but I feel like that fight in the middle, the Oleksiejczuk fight, was like, that was a super close fight.
I appreciate you saying that, because yeah, like you say, most people would have thought, oh yeah, well, I would have you know, I would have won that fight. And even me to this day, I still think, you know, I almost finished him in the first, almost finished him in the second, and then in the third, obviously he caught me with a good body shot. But I'm like, you know, you got to look at it all around. Obviously, he forward pressure. It is what it is. Fair play to him. You know, he won. But yeah, like, you know, after the Khalil fight, I was kind of hoping that they'd at least give me one more shot. You know, I had that very close fight with Oleksiejczuk. I fought Jimmy Crute, who was in the top 15 at the time, and now Khalil Roundtree, who's had a massive resurgence, who's going on a massive winning streak. So it's like, you know, I was fighting very tough opponents, so I thought at least they might give me one more shot, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. And yeah, I literally looked on my phone, and on Twitter there's a page called UFC Roster Watch, and I just saw a red X with my name next to it, and I was like, I literally at that point my heart just dropped. I'm like, you can't be serious. Already at that moment, I felt a little bit dizzy actually, and then straight away I called my manager, and obviously then he confirmed to me that was the case. So yeah, obviously it's a very cutthroat, ruthless business, but at the end of the day, if you're not performing, you know, you don't get the fruits of, you know, being able to fight in the UFC. But this is why they're the top promotion in the world, as sad as it sounds. But this is just life in general, you know. This is, the more you understand that, the better it is going to be for you, you know. And this is something that I had to learn, obviously, the extremely hard way. I remember even when I told my dad, listen, we've been cut from the UFC. I remember I was crying, obviously, because, you know, it was horrible, and like I just, like, really, I was just, all my energy has been sucked away from me, you know. But then, you know, you could see that fierceness in my dad's eyes. Like, straight away he said, we'll fucking train harder then, and we'll bloody get back, you know, like, it's ain't over, you know. That was the first time where you almost, like, you want someone to feel sympathy for you, you know. Look at what's just happened. And he did. He did show me sympathy. Don't get me wrong, it's not like he's just completely ruthless. But, you know, he obviously, he understood how difficult it was. But the thing that hurt him the most was obviously seeing his son in such a like completely drawn out, like,
Yeah.
I don't even know how to explain it. He just saw it on my face, like, and he didn't want this to happen either. And obviously he couldn't imagine what I was going through. So obviously he's living like everything through me as well. And we're on this journey together. And so obviously for that to happen, it was horrible. But already from that moment, I knew that all I wanted to do was to make things right. And I think a lot of people probably would have said this MMA stuff is not for me, but I still hadn't recovered from I knew there was so much more left to be done. I'm like, if the story ends here now, what a crap story that would be. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, he won. It's like, oh yeah, he won the Cage Warriors belt, and he went to the UFC and got cut. Great, like, and just for me and just in myself, like, even like those things from back in the day when people just like wouldn't care about me and stuff like that. Shall I show you how fickle people are though? Yeah, it's mad because I had 12.8 thousand followers on Instagram before the Khalil fight, and then after the Khalil fight and after I got cut, I went down to 11.2.
No way.
So people literally just unfollowed me because I'd lost and I got cut from the UFC. So it's like, this is why I say, like, I can't even take certain things like too seriously or too much to heart, because it's just this is life. People don't care about losers. It's just the sad story of life. People only care about winners. And it was my job to turn the tables, and as difficult as it was and as hard as it was, I was very thankful that I had my dad, my stepmom, and my close family and stuff like that. They were always there to support me and like tell me, you're going to get through this. And we had to just basically get, kind of work towards it just day by day. Do you know what I mean? Like, just a small like hammer on the nail, just day by day, just slowly inch by inch working. And that's literally what got me through, is just slowly seeing improvements. I had an amazing physio, an amazing surgery. And from that point, it was a case of, it almost like motivates you even more. It's like Joe Rogan would say all the time, it's like, be the hero of your own story, and that was something that was like very vivid at the forefront of my mind, is that I need to be the hero here. The only way I can do that is by recovering from this injury and proving everyone counted me out, thought I was crap, or he wasn't meant to be in the UFC, and like, oh, where's he going to fight? What's he going to do? And it was my job to prove him wrong. Like I said, chip on the shoulder. It's a very powerful thing. I think people almost like, they kind of look at it as being a bad thing. Oh, well, you shouldn't use hate as, no, use it. You know what I mean? Because it's very powerful, because they're going to make you do things that people don't expect you to do. And that's essentially what happened. So yeah, it was, as terrible as the whole situation was, like I say, making sure that I was able to try and work things day by day is what eventually got me through to the other side.
So how, like, that's obviously a huge impact on you, being cut from the UFC after having your third loss and all that stuff. But on top of that, and I think people can find their own connections to this, because I know I can, like, you were injured as well, which means that, and what we've just been talking about, for those people that don't know your story, you entered the Khalil Roundtree fight, your last fight before the UFC released you, with already a slightly damaged knee. He hit an oblique kick, which just completely, did it tear off the meniscus or something like that?
Yeah,
or...
so I'll basically explain everything like in detail, because I got the MRI before, basically in training about 10 weeks out from that fight. I was doing wrestling and I just heard like some cracking in my knee, and I was like, this isn't good, right? I'll try and bend it, and it was very swollen, and obviously it was like, like I say, it improved, but I always felt this clicking. I always felt like this instability when I'll jump from a height, like if I'll do a box jump and then jump off, like instability straight away, and just the clicking, and like I couldn't straighten my knee fully in certain bits, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I'm like, I probably need to get this checked out, because I thought, it'd just be a little scratch and we'll get on with it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'll just heal, and it didn't heal. Like 2 weeks later. So then I went to the doctor. I got a very quick MRI, and then yeah, basically they said I'd torn both meniscuses in my left knee, And also I torn 75% of the ACL. So that was why the instability was happening. It was because of the ACL. And the reason why I was clicking was because both the meniscuses were damaged. So already I was compromised. But at that point, I wasn't going to let that kind of stop me either. Now, the doctor told me straight away, I asked him point blank, I said, I've got a fight in 8 weeks. Will I be able to fight? He said, because he knows me, he's a very good guy, great doctor. He said, because he's seen me before, he said, listen, because of the strength of your legs and obviously how much I've had to do physio in the past and even just strengthen up the leg muscles, he said, that will hold up. You'll be able to fight, but you'll need to get it sorted straight away. He says, he says, you'll know better than anyone else, but you'll need to get it sorted, but you will be able to fight. Already, if you give me an inch, I'm going to take a mile. So he told me I could fight. I was like, I'm going to fight. And at the time, it was still during COVID, but that was supposed to be the first event that they were going to do in London, mate. To fight in your hometown crowd, what a freaking experience that would be. So for me, I wasn't going to give up that opportunity. And obviously, and then it got moved last minute to Vegas. And obviously, I was still scheduled to fight. And, a lot of people probably would have pulled out, and maybe it would have been the smarter decision to pull out. But again, I had no money. I really needed that, that money and that win bonus and stuff like that. So there was a lot of things going on. So, and I was just in a really bad, tough situation. It's kind of like, and it was such a big opportunity against like a very credible name. It's like, and everything in training was going well. And, obviously I had my issues, but I'm like, I can do it. I know I can do it. And then it was just unfortunate that obviously they picked a great technique and, fair play to him. He did what he had to do. And it was almost kind of like a heaven sent that I got my knee torn to shreds because, then it helped, then I had to go and get it sorted straight away. And then essentially after the fight, the meniscus tore off the bone is what they said. And one of the tears just got a little bit bigger. ACL, they said, looked like half a bit of tooth floss. So it was still hanging on, but like by a thread. And then the MCL, because of the chronic wear on my MCL, that was completely gone as well. So they essentially had to drill the meniscus back to the bone. They had to stitch up the meniscus to obviously make sure I could preserve the tissue, which was good. But I was thankful that they were able to do that because it means that, my probably knee replacement surgery at some point down the line in my career, it will happen a lot later than earlier. And then they put an artificial graft on the ACL, and they put and the hamstring as well, so it's extra strong. And then on the MCL, they just had to put an artificial graft. So essentially, it was like a full knee reconstruction, but they added this graft. It's called a Lars graft, and it's like a synthetic ligament, which is apparently stronger than like human ligament. So, essentially, I'm a bionic man. You know what I mean? So, I'm coming out here with. They would never do this for anyone else. Never. The fact that it was because it was the UFC and because they knew I wanted to return to competition very quickly. I had a very amazing doctors, great physio. So yeah. Everything just fell into place nicely, but yeah, it was
that is a lot of the physical, isn't it? But like, how does, because I know from my own experiences, like as an actor, when I'm not working, it can affect my mental health. I can feel a bit low and a bit down. When you're in a situation when you're injured, you can't train, you can't fight, you can't do the thing that you love to do, that you feel like you've kind of been put on this earth for. What does that do to you mentally?
Yeah, so I'd originally left the workplace because I was working at a gym in Radlett, and I originally had to leave that place because I wanted to train, full time, and that was my dream and my goal, and that's what I wanted to do. And then next thing you know, obviously everything in the professional sporting world gets taken away from you. Obviously the thing with the knee, and I'm sitting with my crutches now. At the beginning, when I'm just trying to recover from the injury, everything was kind of okay, but then you're off the crutches, you're making certain breakaways in your recovery. But yeah, it's like having to go back to even to the work. But I remember we would still do training from sitting down though. So when it's like it was still always part of me. Like my dad would get us to do like some kettlebells and some punches from sitting down on a seat. So I feel like as well, like, yeah, I wasn't able to do it like properly how I wanted to, but I was still always in the game. I was still looking at videos. I was still, I was still staying within the circle of doing it, because if it got taken away from me completely, I would have been in a really bad spot. So the fact that I was able to still, I had the perseverance to work around it. There's a lot of people who would, oh, my leg's bad, so that means my upper body's bad. Like I'm just not going to do anything. But that's the wrong mentality. If you're able to move the upper body, that also helps to heal the lower body. So the fact that I was sitting down doing kettlebells, doing punches from sitting down, that helped with the recovery in itself. And it kept me in the game. It kept me mentally, okay, I'm still working towards my goals. But yeah,
literally saw videos of Liam Harrison yesterday sitting down, hitting pads while his knee recovers. Literally watched him yesterday. They posted them, and it's like, I didn't realise that would actually have an effect on your lower body by training your upper body.
Yeah, it's like a physiological connection. When they do acupuncture, the nervous signals that they do on one leg is supposed to go into your other leg just by doing it on one side. So if you can imagine, the same thing would go for, getting the blood, even the blood flow from going from the upper body, it still works the same going into the lower body. So it's like, it's just helping to recruit the right mechanisms in your body to sort of target yourself for. And the mind as well, I don't know, it's just like, if you think to yourself, I can still do something, I'm gonna recover from this injury, and I want to make it fast, I'm gonna get through this. Like, it just makes that whole situation, makes you more diligent with your physio, it makes you more just kind of like zoned in and dialed into what it is that you need to do. And then your body just naturally responds. Like, the brain is a powerful thing, because as you know, like guys like David Goggins, I mean, he's freaking running hot, like, these Ironman bloody and these ultra marathons with broken knees and all sorts. Like, it just shows the power of the mind is crazy, because it's true. Your body has like one mode where you get up to, like, you get 70% out of yourself, and then your mind is what gives you that extra 30% to continue to keep going into. So that's essentially what would happen when I'm like sort of sitting down doing all these moves, and then naturally when I'm able to start walking, getting off the crutches, things just slowly started to progress. One thing that I don't know if anyone knew, but I did have to have a second operation. And the only reason why I had to get that done was because they had to almost vacuum there was like loads of like scar tissue and like inflammation, and they just had to remove that, because I remember I just couldn't straighten my leg at all, and I was like, oh. Like, and there's those thoughts in your head, you're like, what the hell, the recovery is not going the way I wanted to. But it was good, because as soon as that happened, as soon as I had that, then the recovery just skyrocketed. So yeah, mate, it was a crazy journey. It's literally so many ups and downs, but yeah, it was a journey that I'm actually thankful that I had, because like I said, it makes you learn a hell of a lot of lessons, and it just makes you more tough in general, mentally and physically.
What's your thoughts? You made it clear that the knee was already damaged, but they're a contentious kick, the oblique kick, and obviously it was caused obviously serious damage to you. What was your thoughts on the oblique kick before, and what is your thoughts on it now?
It has always been, this is fighting. Anything you need to go and obviously beat your opponent. This is war at the end of the day. This is primal. This is, as much as it's a sport, don't forget this is fighting. You got to hurt the person. It's just how it is. Unfortunately, we're all trying to make that bread so we can help our families, so we can help our own lives, and it's just player versus player. So it's a legal move. It's been used before. John Jones, the greatest fighter of all time, used it very effectively. So why would it be a bad move now? What, just because it caused a serious injury? I mean, let's be honest. I mean, there might have been a couple of injuries from oblique kicks, but this one was obviously the most prominent. The only reason why it was so prominent was because that had happened. So, it's a very legal move. I tried to sidekick Tyson Pedro's knee at one point, and realistically, a lot of people don't really get it, is that it was the timing that made that move so vicious. The first time he tried it, I moved out the way. People already forget that because obviously, they only see the worst of it. But the first time he tried the oblique kick, I moved out the way because he did it openly. The second time, obviously his corner, I think maybe were trying to tell him. They said I was heavy on my front foot with the jab. I've changed a lot of these certain things now that obviously I've went into my training and everything, but I had a side-on stance and I was very heavy on the front foot with the jab. So obviously that particular move is going to cause damage, and it's going to win you the fight. We all got to feed our families, and stuff like that. So as vicious as it is, it's part of the game, and it's my job to defend something like that. So he just did the technique very well, and I applaud him for that. But yeah, like I don't think that I'm not going to use this to my advantage either. So yeah, completely legal in my opinion.
And you mentioned John Jones just there. I think you trained with John Jones a little while ago. He is coming back in, what is it, 2 weeks' time or something like that at UFC 285. What kind of John Jones do you expect to see as a heavyweight against what I think is a really tough matchup for him in Cyril Gane? How do you see that going, and what kind of John Jones do you think we'll see at heavyweight?
Yeah, I think look, he's had a lot of time away from the sport. He's had a lot of time to work on certain skills to fill out his body. I don't know if you've seen him now, but he's like 250 pounds. The dude is a freaking beast. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And the thing is, he fills out everywhere, like in his arms, in his legs. You know what I mean? Like when I trained with him, I was only 22. So I think he must have been like 27 maybe at the time. And, he was very lean, very athletic, but obviously very strong, very, very technical. These things one will never forget, and the thing is, like I say, he's had the time. When you're in training camp, you're always preparing for an opponent. So your skill set doesn't really go up that much necessarily because you're training specifically. When I can just open my mind and just like now, for example, and I can just, okay, I want to work on this because I want to, because I feel like it's something that I need to work on. It's a faulty part of my game. You can actually spend that time to do that. Now he's had plenty of time to do that. Not only has he been able to do the strength and conditioning and the powerlifting or whatever else he needs to do to get the weight up, he's done it like periodically over time. He hasn't rushed it. He hasn't just gotten fat. Like, he's slowly worked his way up, but I'm 100%, we don't see what these athletes do behind doors. Like a lot of people thought that I was finished until I came back, you know what I mean? And they didn't even know what was going on behind closed doors. I posted up different videos and stuff like that, but people will think, oh well, he's been out of the game for ages, but don't think he hasn't been working. You know what I mean? He knows what challenge he has ahead of him. So Cyril Gane is amazing. What an athlete. He's got very versatile striking, very fast, light on his feet. So this will be a much more of a challenge because this will probably be the best striker I think that Jones has fought to date, and especially at heavyweight where the shots, I mean, if you saw the knockout of Tai Tuivasa, so obviously the guy's got power in his hands as well, and he changes stances just like John Jones does. I think he mainly fights from southpaw, but he does switch up, so it's going to present more problems. But look, Jones's wrestling is next level. I've experienced this firsthand. He's now training with Henry Cejudo, who's a freaking Olympic wrestler, Olympic gold medalist by that. Also a champion. So he's going to be under very good tutelage, under the wing of such a fighter like that. So yeah, I mean, in my personal opinion, I think John Jones will win it. Just due to the fact that we've seen Cyril Gane's takedown defense hasn't been necessarily the best. Obviously he'll be working on it, he'll be improving that, but Jones's wrestling is really that good. If he wants to take someone down, he I think he will definitely use it a lot more. The striking will be very, very even because John Jones uses striking very well, and on the floor, John Jones will have the upper hand as well. So, I do feel that John Jones will be taking that heavyweight belt, but it will definitely be interesting to see how he's going to handle the problems that Cyril Gane possesses.
Let's go from heavyweight back down to light heavyweight and talk us through a little bit about how you see, because it's a strange top 10 at the moment, and there's all sorts of oddness going on around the belt and stuff like that, and those in contention for the belt. And tell me a little bit how you see the rest of this year panning out in that sort of top 5, top 6, top 7 of the division?
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one because where does Ankalaev and Blachowicz go from their fight?
Yeah.
Obviously Glover Teixeira has just retired. You got Yuri Prohaska is going to have to come off of like a very serious shoulder surgery. Dominic Reyes has now lost, I think, 4 in a row. So yeah, it's a bit of a Ryan Spann is now coming up. He's fighting very soon. I believe it's this weekend.
Saturday, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Krylov, I think.
yeah, so Krylov has got some good wins. You got Johnny Walker up in the mix, so it seems to be a very interesting light heavyweight division. You've got Jamal Hill up at the top. Obviously, the fight with Yuri Prohaska is definitely going to happen when he recovers.
Do you think that happens next, or do you think Hill will defend the? Because again, you just don't know how long these shoulder injuries he's going to be out for. And so let's play a hypothetical question: if Prohaska can't make it back for another, I don't know, 8 months or something like that, and Jamal Hill has to fight someone, who do you think is the most deserving person to fight Jamal Hill for the belt?
Well, I would say I would have said Rakic, but he had a really bad knee injury as well, and he's going to be out for a long time. I mean, realistically, the guys who, I mean, if you look at it, like just being realistic, it should be Ankalaev or
that's what I think.
Yeah,
I think Ankalaev.
Ankalaev, the up and coming guy. He's beaten a lot of top guys. Obviously, the last performance, but then on that side of it, you probably got to give Blachowicz another shot. You know what I mean? Because he really bashed up that dude's legs like badly. And he had some really good moments in that fight himself. That's why obviously the outcome is what it is. So it would have to be between Ankalaev and Blachowicz. And Blachowicz, I think maybe would be deserving of it because, realistically, that would be one of his last couple chances to fight for the belt. Unless he continues after that. So. And then maybe Ankalaev would fight like a Rakic or something. So there's these type of fights to be made, but. I definitely think Yuri Prohaska, obviously having to vacate the belt, he's technically the next one in line. Who knows how bad that shoulder really is. But obviously like I say, the mind is very strong, and athletes' bodies are very well equipped to handle injuries. So it's interesting, man. Like people, I don't think people give the light heavyweight division enough credit. Obviously you've got bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight, absolutely stacked. But light heavyweight now, there's some very interesting fights to be made in the top half and in the lower half. So it's exciting times. Exciting times.
And do you see the middleweight champ moving up?
Pereira. I mean, obviously he's got to get through Adesanya in his fight, which is on March 4th as well. So. I mean, look, I don't know. I mean, Adesanya was winning all the rounds until that really amazing flurry by Pereira in the last round. Pereira is a big dude, so I wouldn't be. I definitely think he would probably. I wouldn't be surprised if he moved up. Just because of how big he is. But obviously, if he feels comfortable at middleweight, but yeah, he would definitely move up. But that's a tough fight on his hands. Pereira and Adesanya again for the second time. Adesanya making the adjustments. Adesanya's been in the game of MMA a little bit longer as well, so there might be some experience on hand there. It's just going to be a tough fight again. I'm really interested to see. I can't really put my finger on it because Pereira, he's got those hands of stone, mate. Do you know what I mean? You get caught with one left hook and
so exciting.
Night nurse. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't want to get hit with one of those. So
no.
But if you look at, like I say, the more kind of technical, slick type style of Adesanya, I mean, he might be able to figure him out this time. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Very interesting.
Yeah, just for clarity, that is April 8th, UFC 287 is that fight. So we've got a little bit of time to wait, but that will be an absolute cracker when it comes along. I mean, back to you, Modestas. What do you do just before we wrap it up? What do you do outside of MMA to relax? What's your kind of I'm just going to kind of decompress now and do this?
I just basically just get up on my roof and just start listening to tribal music and start doing like war dances. No, I'm joking. I don't. No, 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 no. Imagine me doing that in my free time. Nah, like honest to God, mate. Watching The Inbetweeners, that's one of them. So there you go.
Hey, there's a plug.
Honest to God, that's like literally one of my favorite shows. It definitely gives you a true depiction as to what school life was like, especially for me.
It's sad, isn't it? It's sad but true. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Now, to be honest, I like I don't know what this weird obsession I have with just like kind of like when I eat my food, for example, when I have like my lunch in between sessions, everything, I've always got to watch something, but I end up watching the same shows over and over again. Like I've watched Power for maybe like the fourth time now. Like everyone tells me, "Oh, check out this new show," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's good," but I'm just gonna check the show that I've already seen like a load of times. You know, me in my spare time, man, I like to, you know, my training partner Will. We like to just go out to like sometimes we just like going out to London, just walking around like freaking, you know, just like the parks and stuff like that, and just like kind of like just like basically going through like ideas of like, you know, even just fighting, even just life in general, just talking about certain things that we've noticed or that we've seen, or like maybe something that we've done on the weekend, or like what, you know, like what girl we might have seen, or like what we're doing, or you know. And so yeah, like you like to, you know, smoke a bit of weed every now and then. Do you know what I mean? Like a little bit of relaxation. I don't do it often, but sometimes, you know, you finish a hard session, or you know, you're on the weekend, just like, you know, just a little bit of relaxation. But yeah, man, like it's not really that like sort of entertaining, because my life is like very consumed by my training, and and like just my thoughts and my visions, and like I've noticed that the time I have in between training sessions is very small. Like by the time I finish my session and I've done like my private sessions that I've taught, and then I'm off to my next session. So yeah, realistically, it's but I like doing creative things. Like I said, I like going on long walks in the parks and stuff like that, and like going to see some nice. I feel like nature's so good for your body. You know, like seeing beautiful things is really good for yourself and just for your mental state of being. You know, and you know, listen to music and like bump into some jams in my car. And yeah, like, you know, I like doing like I say, like even playing a bit of putt shack every now and then. It's just like really, it's just kind of, I'm very spontaneous. I think that's the best word to describe me, is that when I do things, it's very spontaneous, on the spot. Like I don't really think about it too much. It's not something that I have a routine of doing. But yeah, and yeah, come on, you gotta like to sleep, man. Mate, I have to get at least an extra nap in every single day just to get through all the training. So so yeah, man, it's nice. It's nice. I'm just, like I say, really enjoying and embracing life at the minute.
Modestas, I want to ask you a couple of fights, and I want you to tell me how you think they're going to go.
Yeah,
Leon Usman.
I think Leon in this fight, which might surprise a lot of people, but listen, it's in his home place. You know, doesn't have to worry about the altitude anymore. You know, he did very well in that first round against Usman. So yeah, I'd say Edwards.
Fiziev Gaethje.
That's a tough one. I think Fiziev.
What a fight.
I think Fiziev, because I mean, although Gaethje likes to brawl, you know, obviously when it you know, he's more than willing to throw down. Fiziev's got such a beautiful technical striking style, and that tie that he uses with his wrestling is amazing. So yeah, I would say Fiziev, great fight that.
Right, and lastly, if it happens, you never know, Conor versus Chandler.
Do you know what? I've had a couple of people ask me that, and yeah, I actually think McGregor, because you've seen. I mean, although Chandler's got some, you know, some bombs in his hands, and you know, he's a very good wrestler and stuff like that. He hasn't necessarily used his wrestling that much in his fights, and McGregor's got that range, he's got that length, and I'm judging by what I've seen before of McGregor. You know, obviously, I don't know what everything will happen now, but you know, he's got long range, he's got that powerful southpaw. Southpaw left hand straight. You know, obviously he's going to add up the kicks and everything. I just think, yeah, his striking is just that much ahead of Chandler. Even though, like I say, one shot from Chandler can put you away, but I would say McGregor would take that.
Wonderful. Right. Wonderful.
And last question, Modestas, when do you want to get back in the cage?
Right, so I've already made a little bit of a call out myself. I don't think it's going to happen, but you know, I've said on media, you know, for the longest time it's been me as UK light heavyweight number 2 and Paul Craig being UK light heavyweight number 1. I know he's a lot higher up in the rankings than me, but you know, I'm ready. I've got such great momentum. I'm back into full training, so I would love to fight on the London card. But I know it's stacked and I know it's full. So obviously, there's all these things against me with that. But you know, I would obviously love that fight. I think that would be amazing. Like 2 top light heavyweights from the UK fighting in the UK. I mean, that would be pretty sick. But realistically, bro, I mean, whenever I'm training, I'm improving. I'm trying to broaden my horizons with the knowledge that I'm getting. So whenever the call comes, I'll be ready to go. That's the main thing. I think in this game, if you're not training when you don't have a fight, then you're really not going to go nowhere. Especially with all these, like, I'm getting old now. Do you know what I mean? There's these like proper young guns. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm 29. Like, there's guys who are like 24, 23 coming up. You know, so the hungry ones sorry, my battery on my phone just went off a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, like the hungry ones, the ones that, like, you know, really want to prove themselves, they're going to be coming up. So I've got to stay sharp. So that's why I'll just be training all the time. And yeah, when the time's right, mate, you'll hear the fight get announced, and then we'll go again. But hopefully I can get another at least 2 or 3 fights this year. That's what I'm looking at.
Fantastic. Well, Modestas, it's been great having you on the show, mate. Thanks so much for giving up so much of your time. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely,
Mate, thank you guys
so
so much for having me. Yeah, you guys are absolutely amazing. I've had a great time talking to you. So thank you so much once again.
Pleasure's all ours, mate.
Much,
Thanks
cheers.
loads, Modestas.
My guys, much love to you guys.